my God. It feels so good to be in this ring. And back in a place where I can glow. So allow me to reintroduce myself. I am Trinity, and I've arrived in Impact Wrestling.
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Welcome once again to another edition of the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. This is your host, Mr. Green. How are you? And thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Probably more gentlemen than ladies, but you know, hey, you never know. We are on episode 33 of WOW Women of Wrestling. And this is titled Sisters Collide. Now, some of you may be wondering where I'm getting these titles from. You know, I've said it in one podcast, but in case you missed it, you know, when they send the press releases for these press previews, I should say, whatever episode's coming up that weekend, they title them like TV show episodes. So they have this as Sisters Collide. So yeah, I guess we'll see how that relates to the title as we go into the show. We'll make a quick plug before we carry on. As you know, you have the opportunity to show your creative side. If you are so inclined, how can you do that? How can you show that, hey, I have just as much booking sense as anybody that's on the WOW? Well, you can do that by going to CustomVixensWrestling.com. CustomVixensWrestling.com. You pick the women, you pick the matches, you are in charge. You get to go and you find them on their upcoming film days. Go through their roster. And by the way, as of this recording, the next filming date will be June 17th. June 17th, that will be the day and the released names available for you to pick from. Check out the lineup. Now, they also do have a male there every once in a while, so do not be surprised by the names. But they have the Black Widow, Brianna Call, who you can see several matches of on this channel, by the way. Laura Lou, Cousin Condry, Mama Hannah, Peyton Storm, Drew Myers, Misty Day, Fantasy, and one Jessie Bell, who looks surprisingly like Jessie Jones. And of course, you know that we have several matches with Jessie Bell and her estranged sisters, who somehow have not been mentioned or, you know, brought. Well, I guess they're not related to Jessie Jones, but Isabel and Maybell. Well, Maybell's dead. Sorry, I forgot. There's a whole interview on our channel that talks about that. You have to look up the interview with Princess Leia. Lila. Good grief. I'm saying Star Wars characters. Now, I didn't mean Leia. So, yeah. You just have to go and look at that. It's a couple of years back, but they had a little family meeting, we'll call it. But anyhow, that's beside the point. CustomVixensWrestling.com, and you can email and reach out to them at customvixens@yahoo.com if you want to show your stuff. And of course, there's, you know, generally speaking, there's always Rock and Roll Roxy. She's there. She's running the show. One of the best wrestlers that the world has not seen, in my view. But you can, again, go to the site, pick your match, pick your women, and you can book and show just how good you are. You pick the women, you pick the matches, you are in charge. All right. That said, we go back to episode 33, Sisters Collide. Now, the big thing with this show was supposed to be, or is, the Four Corners match. So let's keep that in mind as we go through match after match after match. First thing that we get on the show is we get a recap of what took place the previous week. This is showing the 4-on-4 match that, with the Island Dynasty defeating the Fabulous Four. This is the first dent in the Fabulous Four's armor. They really have not lost or had any big setbacks up until this point. So just recapping in my words the main event from the previous show. I thought it was a very good match. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. I think it is worth your time. It is short, but it's very entertaining for the length of time that the match is. I mean, I guess they had to try to squeeze it down for television. But it is worth your time if you get the chance. If you haven't seen it, you should go and check that out. But what they do is they show after the match one of the Tongas. I do not know which. Do not ask me. I just now noticed that one of them wears, a band on their bicep. So I should probably endeavor to see which one's which. But as of right now, I can't tell the difference. But one of them gets on the mic and they cut a promo about getting the belts back. And they had passion, or she had passion in her promo. Why don't we get more of this? She seems to do better in my view, because I've seen the backstage stuff. And this is probably maybe the second time I've seen one of them on a microphone. It seems to me, or it feels like there's a comfort level for one of them as being on the mic and talking. Seems very natural, comes off and very smooth. And again, the passion that she was trying to relate was very easy to get across. Even if I'm not saying that she did, but even if she didn't say much, the passion kind of drove the words. One I shot, they talk about this is in their blood. She knelt down so that the camera can see her directly, so she can look like right into the lens of the camera. I don't know if she was told to do that, but if she was not, good instincts on her. And good on her instincts that helped carry this after-match segment. And then they followed it when they played the theme music, and you got the Tongas and Tiki doing like their victory dance while McCoy is in front of them. It was just a great visual. Great visual. Makes me interested in the Island Dynasty to see where they're going. I hope this goes somewhere sensible, but yeah, it makes me pretty interested in it. So anyway, we move on from that into the first match. Dave McClain, of course, talks about the matches that are upcoming. That's generally what they do. And the first match in the lineup was Gigi Gianni taking on Jennifer Florez. And now in this match, the partner of Gianni is nowhere to be found. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. That happens. Sometimes you get tag partners that go out for a singles match and their partner isn't allowed or isn't available or just didn't go out. So not a bad thing. I also need to point out, and I'm not going to say that I had anything to do with, but one of my complaints was that you wouldn't know who was on commentary if you didn't see the cameras turn to them at some point. When Gianni comes out for this match, they got this lower third graphic that pops up on the screen that's got David McClain, Stephen Dicken, AJ Mendez. They actually show their faces and they show their names. They finally did it. And again, I can't take any credit for that. I know I've complained about it publicly, but I can't take any credit for that. I am just happy that they actually have done that. Now, it is a very subtle thing that David McClain's picture is larger than everybody else's in that graphic, but he's front and center, baby. Front and center. And this is nothing against David. He does fine with what he's doing. It's his show. He knows what he wants. And I'm sure he can relate that very well. But I will stand on it as much as I stood on. They need to actually tell people that AJ Mendez is there and let her face be seen. And I guess this is a start, having the graphic in the lower third. As much as I stood on that, I will continue to stand on this needs to be a 2-person booth. Doesn't need to be 3 people. What does it need to be 3 people for? Other than the fact that the WWE does it, so everybody else has to do it. Doesn't need to be 3 people. 2 people are fine. Play-by-play and color. That's it. You don't need a 3rd person there just to cog up the wheels, even if it is David McClain. You pay Dickie and you pay AJ. Get your money's worth out of them. Justify their salaries. Let them do the job. And I don't mean the job of laying down. I mean letting them do the job of calling the match and doing the color. So anyway, we'll get past that. We go to Gigi Gianni, lovely young lady. Apparently her wrestling skill does not match the look. I don't mean that in terms of that she's bad and botched up a whole bunch of things. I just mean it in terms of her record. Has a very good presentation. I still prefer, and I know it's a lost cause now, I still prefer the idea of the team of Gianni and Gambino. That's not going to happen now since Gambino's no longer apparently with the company. But as far as in-ring work, Gianni and Rodriguez seem to do well together. I just wish they would win, but now I don't see that happening. They've been kind of slotted. I mean, maybe a couple of weeks from now, because the Wild seems to do that. They'll let somebody lose over and over and over and over and over again, and then all of a sudden they'll be in a main event match or some nonsense like that. But anyhow, we've got Florez coming out to take on her opponent of the evening, Jennifer. I was about to repeat Jennifer Jenzi Florez, but no, it's Jennifer Jenzi Florez and Gigi Gianni. Gianni largely was in control of the match. And, we're not going to go through the bulk of the play-by-play. I will say one other thing that I noted. I thought that the camera work was nice here. I should say camera work / editing. One of the issues I had, especially early on, was that constant cut, going from one angle to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Like somebody just had a seizure on the cut button or something. This editing or these editors or whoever's directing this it feels so much better to me. So much better. I can actually see, the bulk of the action without it flipping off every time somebody throws a punch or a kick. So, the match, not bad. I did not see anything that I could complain about or, something like that. I mean, oftentimes in some Wild matches, you get the obligatory screw up. But I know that happens in some cases out of bad communication and experience, and I also take into account that the ring is smaller by and large to most rings that the workers on the independents are used to. I think it's one of the smaller rings that are available just in wrestling in general. Now, that's not necessarily an excuse, because in most cases when you get to a building, they walk the ring so they can get the paces and kind of get the rhythm of running back and forth. But I'm just saying, these are things that could have affected matches, a variety of them in Wild's history since the return of it for the 5th time. Going towards the end of the match, we've got Gianni in control, as I don't think would be very surprising in most cases. She does at one point show a little bit of her strength and hoist Florez up to her shoulders and takes her down. And a nice Kevin Nash used to do something similar to that. He would spin the body, pick somebody up, and spin them into like a sidewalk slam. This is what Jennifer, damn it, it's not Jennifer, Gigi Gianni. These G's and J's, man. Okay. It is what Gigi Gianni did. She hoisted Jennifer up on her shoulders in fireman's carry position and swung her around to a side slam. That plaster put her down, didn't get the pin, but it did neutralize her for a second. She got a chin lock on her, she being Gianni, on Florez. Florez fights out of that. She gets the babyface fire. There was some good visuals by Gianni when she was taking the hit. I mean, she related what she was going through when she was taking those forearm shots in the corner. She comes out of the corner, and Florez is able to come over to her in a, I guess what we call a wheelbarrow. What was it? I don't even know if it's a name for it. She got in like wheelbarrow position around. I'm going to try to describe this as best I can. She charges in, turns around in motion, wrapping her legs around Gianni's waist. So she's now in wheelbarrow position on Gianni. She pushes herself up, comes back down, and one fluid motion goes through Gianni's legs and causes Gigi to smack her face first into the canvas. Nice move. Did not score the win. So now you got, again, the babyface. Florez is pretty much in control, showing the babyface fire. Gianni breaks free of that. Florez gets out of her flurry and does, I really think she needs to get her another finish. It doesn't do it for me, but what they have referred to, or what McLean has referred to as a bicycle, they don't really have a name for it. I just call it a Ferris wheel slam. So she hooks her at the side, turns her body, and flips Gianni over. Boom. Ferris wheel slam, 1, 2, 3, we are done. And then they move on. So it wasn't anything terrible. But it was just a cold match. It was a match. Seems like this has been a running theme for the last couple of shows, but it was just a match just for the sake of having a match. And you have to have that sometimes. There's a little bit of fluff. You cannot get on WoW or any other promotion for that. They all have it. It's just how many of these are you going to have? WoW doesn't have the same luxury of having fluff matches as, say, an AEW or WWE, because WWE's got 3 hours of show. They need the fluff. AEW has 2 hours of show. And, I mean, really, if you include their week, they got like 4 or 5 hours of show that have to be programmed. So, again, you got to kind of include the fluff. Here, you still need the fluff to just provide another match and give some of the girls in the back the ability to be on camera. They can't all be in an angle, but they can all get a match or match time. But what I don't want to see is the fluff to overcome the show where it's like 3 out of 4 matches, because again, this show is it has a pretty standard template. I think that's safe to say now. We're 33 weeks into this thing, and with the exception of one episode, it's 4 matches every 15 minutes. And in between those 15 minutes, we got vignettes or video packages or whatever. But that's the template. That's the template. That's what they stick to. And so when you're looking at the show, you pretty much know what you're dealing with, and you basically know when the match is about to end or somebody's going to win it because of that. Is that a bad thing? No, not necessarily. I will repeat this stance also. I would hope every once in a while they would change it up, rather than just sticking to, all right, guys, we got to get our 4 matches in, and it's got to be, less than 10 minutes per match just because, It'd be nice just to break the monotony, just to throw fans off a little while. And, and now that I say that, I meant to say it at the beginning, but I got into my promo and I wanted to keep going. I did want to go into some notes about the ratings and what they may mean to WoW. It's a hard puzzle to kind of crack with their ratings and what it means for them, but we'll talk about that as I move forward. So anyway, the next thing is we got a video package setting up the 4-way main event. The note I put down here was, why is this happening? The commentators talk about the team trying to further, the teams, and they're on the mic trying to further the Heavy Metal Sisters issues. They're talking about it in the sense that we've seen a bunch of arguments or what have you with the Heavy Metal Sisters. They did this a couple of weeks ago. It was like the commentators try to reconstruct the history of what you've seen, assuming that you either have a bad memory or you did not see it at all. If you didn't see it at all, there's no reason for you not to believe them. If you saw it and you paid attention, then you could turn around and be like, well, look, that's not exactly what happened when the commentators say it. But I know they have a narrative to push, but at least try to get within, what took place, opposed to, and they've been fighting for weeks. So really? Where have they been fighting for weeks? I haven't seen it. And I know they can always lean on the idea that, well, they was doing it at home or on the road or in the car, on the plane. They can always lean on that. But by and large, if it doesn't take place on camera with the wrestling show, it didn't happen for the most part. I mean, there's exceptions to that, but generally speaking, if we don't see it, it's hard to get invested in it. The other note that I put on my paper was, why would either team agree to this? But then later on in the show, they did some segment to try to justify it, and we'll get to that later. So the next match is Exile with Ice Cold versus Kandi Krush and Princess Aussie. They have now tagged up and formed this bond to take on the evil that is Exile. The one check mark that I had when I saw this match is, thank God it has nothing to do with the Monsters of Darkness or the Sisters of Darkness or the Monsters of Madness or whatever the hell they want to call them, and move Kandi Krush away from this. And I hope she stays away, because it was such a poor anticlimactic end to a non-stop feud that carried on way past its expiration date. And it seemed like they were going to go right back into it. It was like, and I hope I'm not talking it up. But yeah, I was happy to see Kandi Krush involved in something else. Just move on. The story being told here by the commentators is that Aussie was motivated by her new friend, I guess to face her fears and whatnot, because we saw Aussie get in the ring with Chainsaw prior to this. Even though Aussie was the one that was part of the group because she was brainwashed or whatever. So we've got this, and after seeing the match, I immediately appreciated the match. I thought the match was fine in and of itself, but I immediately appreciated the match because it kind of followed an old wrestling logic, in that your tag team wrestlers are good wrestlers, but not necessarily strong singularly all the time. So when you have a singles competitor like Genesis, and she's in there with Kandi Krush, as she was last week, I think that was Genesis, might have been Exodus. When she's in a match with her and the match is competitive, it works. And it didn't hurt her to lose it. It would have been great if she won, but it didn't hurt her to lose it because she's a tag team wrestler. And people assume that she's better in the team when she's presented that way. Now this match flips that concept because we had the singles match with Krush and one of the members of Exile. Take a quick flip through my notes here because I keep all this stuff right here on my desk, folks. So, all right. It was Genesis. I was right. So Genesis against Kandi Krush, she was able to be competitive. She lost, but there was nothing lost in her with that. The match being where it was, I think, helps keep Genesis in a strong light because she was able to compete with one of their main event players. Now, again, as I just said, the concept is flipped because you have Krush and you got Princess Aussie stepping into their environment in a tag team war. And, well, let's just go to the end here because the match, fine match. Fine. And I like that it has something attached to it. It isn't just a cold match. They've already kind of kicked off their a rivalry between the two. And they also did something useful with Ice Cold. I mean, I have been a little hard on her, I will admit, because she just seemed like she was just the lost puppy. She just went to one team to the next. Or she didn't hang out with Foxy Fierce, who was forced into that. She went to a team with the Samantha Smart and her crew on her own, but then got fed up with it apparently, and now she's with Exile for no explained reason. And she's just there. But this is the first time that I felt like she offered something to the team, and I hope that she continues to do that. Exile continues to get better. They need to wrestle more often. They need to be, in more tag matches, but they have gotten better. Coming towards the end of the match, it was Princess Aussie who was in the heat spot. She was caught up in there with Exile, and here's another thing. I'm going to continue to give the credit where credit is due. One of the things that I hate in tag team wrestling matches, and I'm not talking about WoW, I'm just talking about tag team matches just in general, is the double tag spot. You got the both members in the ring. They do something or other where both of them are down. Usually the babyface pops the heel, for some reason, and they both go down, and they're both crawling to their corners, and they're both struggling, and they both reach out and they both tag simultaneously. It was fine the first time I saw it in my life, maybe the fourth or fifth or maybe even the 10th, but that became such a cliche in tag team wrestling. And I was like, good Lord, man, what happened to just a normal tag? Here, they did it. And I shouldn't say normal tag, a tag where the babyface is struggling to get over there. Like, the heels are doing a good job of cutting them off over and over and over again. And they have to work and have to struggle to make that tag. This is one of those moments in the tag match. Aussie was the one that was caught in the ring. And she was caught up by Exile. They looked good collectively, and Genesis specifically, nothing against Exodus, but Genesis I thought looked very good there, and they kept Aussie in the ring. The Genesis did one spot where she took Aussie by the hair, walks her to the center of the ring like she was going to take her across to her partner, and just turns her right back around and goes to the ropes. I mean, it was a subtle. It wasn't really subtle. It was a small thing, I should say, but I thought it was amusing. So you got Aussie in there, and she's trying to do what she can to get away. She catches a leg of Genesis at one point, gets shoved towards the opponent's corner, stops herself from getting hit by Exodus, but then ducks underneath a clothesline from Genesis and able to make the tag. And then now you got Kandi Krush coming in to do the old good babyface cleanup spot. So this is a nice match. I mean, it is very It's not fast paced. It's not bing, bing, bing. It's not all over. It's not the Midnight Express taking on the Southern Boys or the Hardy Boys taking on the Edge and Christian or Triple X versus America's Most Wanted. I'm thinking about all the tag teams that had quick paces in their matches. Or the Bucks and the FTR, whoever you want to put in as your team of, fast-paced, high-energy action. This isn't that, but it is a solid tag team match. And I thought just between that, they did well. And even with this, they managed to get past the heat spot and turn it back over where the babyface was bringing it back in. But even in that portion of the match, Exile fought valiantly for heels. Wonderful spin heel kick performed by Genesis on Krush. I don't know if she actually caught her on the mouth or not. I tried to go back and take a look at it a couple of times, but it was a really, really good kick. I can't tell because they edited on the Impact. And I'm not going to get mad at the editing team on here because at least they don't do it with every little thing. But because they edited on the Impact, that kick looks like there ain't no daylight between it. It looks like it caught her right on the cheek. It looked great. Whether it hit her or not, it looked great. So we're getting towards the end of the match, and here's where Ice Cold starts proving her value in my eyes. She had been she's in the corner of Exile. If I did not mention that before, because for whatever reason, Malaya Hosaka's no longer there. They never addressed it. The only thing that hurt this segment is that the camera wasn't on it. Ice Cold walks around to the ring. Walks around to the opposite side of the ring, I should say. And Kandi Krush is in the ring. She's getting jumped by Exile. Ice Cold goes over and grabs the leg of her partner, Princess Aussie. But we can't see that because, again, the camera shot isn't on it. And these things happen, okay? I've been in production. I've sat there, and I get it. If you weren't told ahead of time that this is taking place, those things happen. I've had, wrestlers not necessarily mad at me, but like, did you get the spot? Did you? And so like, you didn't tell me about the spot. And in an environment like a tag team match where you got more people to try to get coverage for, it's easier to miss that. The only thing that would have made it somewhat easy if they panned the camera back to where they could have gotten the ring apron also. But I know I know what they were trying to do. They're trying to keep the camera where the action is. The action is in the center of the ring. And if they weren't aware that Ice Cold was going to go around there and do that, then why would they have pulled it back? But what happens here is Ice Cold goes over, she grabs the ankle of Princess Aussie, yanks her off of the apron. Again, we don't see all of that, but we see the end result. Ice Cold shoves Aussie face first into the post on the outside. Now we got a handicap match, basically. Krush is in there on her own. Ice Cold comes back to the corner of the team. Genesis steps in to distract the referee. Exodus steps in to distract the referee. Genesis shoves Ice Cold. I'm getting them all mixed up. Genesis shoves Kandi Krush to the ropes. Ice Cold catches Kandi Krush's arms, jumps down, pops her to where she falls right into the waiting arms of Genesis, and boom, 1, 2, 3, Exile wins the match. Yes, they had to cheat to do it, but they're heels. They're supposed to cheat, So again, a couple of things here. I was happy to see Kandi Krush in another program. The roll-up that Genesis did was so good. She put all her body weight into that thing. And the way that the camera had it, you could look at it and feel like, yeah, she could have held her down there. Oftentimes, we see wrestlers in the ring, and this is another spot that I'm not talking about WoW specifically. Oftentimes we see wrestlers in the ring, they do these roll-ups and they don't cinch it in tight to where you would believe that this person couldn't get out of it if they really tried. Here, it looks like she could try, but she was going to have a hard time getting out of it. So, pleased with the match. I was absolutely pleased with it. And again, Exile, they went over. This is an old thing. You're back in my environment now. You're on my turf. You're in the tag team match. So, yes, they won. Whereas before, 2 weeks ago, it was the reverse and Kandi Krush won. So now we're going to, imagine that. We're going to what could be a blow-off after these two teams have traded back and forth. I cannot believe it while I was doing this. So thumbs up for them. At the end of the match, as Exile leaves and they're tossing up the signs for Exile as they walk out, a promo is cut. Basically saying that they, I guess, are upset that Exile won and cheated. But you know what? We're going to get even. And this isn't verbatim. And next week, we're going to, not next week, the next match, we're going to take them on again in a 3-on-3, and we'll come with our mystery partner. So that is what is set up now. We have a upcoming match with Kandi Krush, Princess Aussie, whomever their mystery partner will happen to be, against Exile, Genesis Exodus, and and Ice Cold. We'll just, at this point, I guess she's just part of the team. I assume they haven't really related that, but I guess we'll find out somewhere along the line. Who knows? The next segment explains again what was due to come in the main event. I just saw one of my notes and I put down Ice Cold does more than Mesmero because she does. Mesmero doesn't do all that much as a manager. Yeah. That's another one I give a hard time to. I need to stop. We go to the next segment after the explanation segment. This is Siren the Voodoo Doll cutting a rhyming promo on Foxy Fierce, I guess. I honestly, it sounded good, and Nina always comes across as very convincing. But I will be honest with you to say this, that at a certain point in that promo with the rhymes and whatnot, I completely lost it. I completely lost it. At some point, I was like, I'm not paying attention anymore. So if you want to know what she was talking about, you probably need to go to their YouTube channel and listen to it. That's why I have a question, because I heard Foxy Fierce at the end. I was like, all right, is this a promo? Is she talking about Foxy Fierce? Is she putting a curse on? I don't know what's happening here. But I'm going to put that on me rather than the show. So if you want to know what she said, you just go find the clip and listen to it. But yeah, I even wrote it in the notes and highlighted it. I guess she's talking about Foxy Fierce. I'm really not sure. Next note that I have here is the commentators making something out of nothing, which is what I was saying earlier when they try to reconstruct their history or talk it up like these things have been so massive, such a massive problem or something like that. They're talking about Foxy Fierce being injured by the monsters, and they cut the video to where it looks like Foxy was down and she was just writhing in pain. And now, if you saw the actual match, it was a down spot that isn't any different than any other down spot in the wrestling match. People get knocked down all the time, and she just happened to get knocked down on the outside. They all have that. There was nothing any different than any other week of any other match. It's not like somebody took a chair and beat her half to death or whooped her with a chain or choked her out or even did a scenario that pretended to break a ankle or leg or arm. None of those things happened. It was just a match, and she got knocked down. And yeah, she was beat up on the outside, but they're all beat up on the outside. How was her beating any different? So whereas I had a fine time with the first match, the second match, and overall the show isn't bad, this reconstructing the history that they continuously try to do is absurd. They should just go ahead and put the sign up there and say that we know that you forgot all of the stuff that we told you. Or have a lower third and say that we don't care what you think. Just listen to what we tell you. Because they don't, they stick with it vaguely, but then they just move on. So yeah, they're making something out of nothing to try to build some sort of intrigue with Foxy facing any member of the dark side. And I will say I find it very difficult to get invested in a Foxy Fierce match. Not that she's a bad wrestler or she presents bad or she's a bad person. I'm sure none of those things are true. But what has WoW done for her? Why on earth would I invest time? She was in the main event on that episode that I hate. And that's part of the reason I hated it, because they have not ever presented her as some sort of player or main event, wrestler in their universe. So you knew she wasn't going to win. I have a very difficult time feeling like she would win this one too. Whatever it is that they're setting her up for, I have a difficult time wrapping my mind around the idea that she is competitive enough to win. Because every time she gets in there, she has a match. She does well. She looks good. She dances nice, very pretty, but usually she loses. I think she's got maybe one or two, there are far more losses than there are wins. There's just, and I know that WWE tried to convince their wrestling fans at one point in time that wins and losses don't matter. That is absolute BS. Wins and losses matter. And I know they do that job, and they did it for a long time, and I'm sure they would use that against me if they ever spoke to me, but that is crap. Wins and losses matter. And don't let anybody tell you differently. They can say that to themselves as much as they want to. Wins and losses matter. You want somebody to get over, you need to see them beating somebody. If wins and losses didn't matter, Roman Reigns would have lost a long time ago. As it stands right now, was he like 2 years undefeated? So no, don't give me this nonsense that wins and losses don't matter. It does. So we go off into our next match after the rhyming, curse-wielding promo that Siren, the Voodoo doll, gave. And we go to a tag team match, followed by another tag team match. We just left one. Siren, the Voodoo doll, and Holidead, the Monsters, or the Sisters of Darkness. So they never gave them some sort of official name. So I just randomly make them up as I go. The Evil Incorporated, who knows? They just need to give them something. And I also noticed that it seems as if the unit of the Monsters is not what it was. They haven't explained that either, but we really don't see Chainsaw and Dante hang out with them. Dante works as the manager for her on-screen sister, Chainsaw, but it doesn't really extend to managing Holidead and Siren. So I'm not sure what that is supposed to be. They've never really said, hey, and they decide to strike on their own, or Siren and Holidead decide to focus on being a tag team. Nothing to really explain where she's gone. This is another one of these moments where I'm like, I honestly think WoW just hopes you forget. Like, they'll never remember that. Just move on. I really feel like that's what they want out of people. Just forget about it. Never happened. Didn't take place. Look at the red light. But they are taking on Chantilly, Chella, and Keta Rush. This is where the dark side, we'll refer to him as the dark side from here on out. This is where the dark side needs to be. When they took on the team of Chella and Foxy, which is the match that they were talking about that allegedly Foxy was brutalized in. When they took on that match, it started off with comedy because of the two dancing, the dance duo of Chella and Fierce. Here, and they should have never let the dark side get involved in that. If they're going to be monsters, let them be monsters and don't impair that by doing silly stuff. Here, they did not do that. They started off the way that I thought they should have. They just attacked them. The dark side kick-started the match and attacked both Keta Rush and Chantilly Chella. The attack didn't last long. The babyfaces did manage to turn it around in relative short order. They were both put on the outside. Keta Rush was able to do a springboard crossbody and take Siren down. She did a nice lockup on the Holidead where she kind of like jumped on her back, did a body scissors, and hooked both of her arms. Body manipulation seems to be what Keta Rush has become good at, very likely through her training in MMA. She is legitimately trained in MMA. I believe she has an MMA gym, if I'm not mistaken. That's part of her Bully Busters thing. I know I've seen her post pictures of her training kids, how to defend themselves and whatnot. So all of that to say is that when you see her do these things, and she's another one, give her a little credit. She's really, really improved as time has moved on. But I think that her lockups and the way she has manipulated joints on the show, all legitimate from her MMA. Just a little side note there. So we forward this a bit. I know I just said it, but I just looked down at my notes and I have it highlighted here. Keta Rush continues to improve. I can't say that any better. I still do not know or understand why the team, the Bully Busters, was broken up when Rush almost always wrestles in tag team matches. She does singular stuff every once in a while, but I don't know. Maybe it's something backstage, and maybe I shouldn't ask. It might just be they wanted time apart. I don't know. But she does well in these tag team things, and this is a case of it only helps her. In this particular match, Rush is in there with 3 other people that she can absolutely learn from. Chella works as Raylan on the Independence, is very good out there. Like, I do not like Chantilly Chella, but I love Raylan, if that makes sense. I know it sounds weird, but yes, that's pretty much how I'm not a fond fan of Chantilly Chella, but I love Raylan. Very good at what she does. Nina Monet, also very good at what she does. Holidead, very good at what she does. The 3 of them are easily more experienced than Keta Rush, and I'm sure in various ways they have and can help her improve just pacing and psychology and this, that, and the other. But as for the match in and of itself, we have Rush, for the most part, taking a great deal of the heat. She does manage to get across and get to Chantilly Chella. And that's part of the reason I dislike her right there is the name. That so hard to get out, and just why you named after a festival. But anyway, she being Keta Rush, does manage to get over to her partner after, fighting the odds. It was a springboard head scissors that she performed on Holidead that got her free and across to her partner to tag in and get Chella in there for the cleanup, in which she does. She comes in and she does the old babyface spots. I mean, she's small. She's a small and thin, lean young lady. But she wrestles to her size. Like she doesn't come in like a world beater. She doesn't come in, like the Road Warriors or the APA or, something like that and just whooping ass. She does a lot of leverage stuff and gets the advantage that way. She tags back out to Keta Rush. Not sure why that happened, but she did. They performed some version of total elimination. Unfortunately, the camera does not catch all of that. Second time in the night that I'm aware of that the camera kind of screwed up what we should see. Rush is left in the ring, unfortunately, by herself. I mean, other partners got eliminated. Rush eliminates Siren from the equation just after Siren eliminated Chella from the equation. But then that left Rush to turn into Holidead when Holidead catches her in that double arm facebuster. Hooks her up, sets her high, brings her down hard, and that was it. Murder, she wrote. She got the pin, and it was a fine match. There's a loose knit story in this one, at least, in that Chella was the partner that Fierce was with when she went down in their universe. This was a good match. It reminded me of old Saturday morning wrestling, quite honestly. But the notes that I wanted to make sure that I got across goes specifically about Keta Rush. She needs to win. She doesn't have to beat everybody, but she needs to start winning. And this is a serious, I cannot imagine being the owner, producer, or promoter of a wrestling promotion and me having access to someone who has a story like, they all got inspirational stories, but me having access to somebody who has Keta Rush's story. Her name, she goes by the moniker the Bully Buster. She has a gym that she has, and I think the Bully Buster Foundation, where she trains kids. This thing comes on at 11 o'clock at night, and that's the other thing. I don't know who WoW is aiming the audience for. Is it adult males? Is it kids? I don't know. But having that person on your roster is a easy road to an inspirational match. Couple of weeks of build up. Keta Rush fighting for whatever goal that is that she's trying to, obtain to get her to where she can overcome the odds and be the inspiration for somebody out there, man, woman, or child. But you can't be an inspiration when you lose all the time. I know people are like, well, yeah, you can't. Not in TV, you can't. Not in wrestling. You can lose and be inspiring. You don't have to win to be inspiring. But you got to get to the point where that inspiration can be drawn. And they are not letting her get to that point. She's got to get to whatever mountain that she has to try to climb. If it's my universe, the mountain should be something like a chainsaw. Since they are rehabilitating Chainsaw to be this monster. And she doesn't even have to win, but she's got... If Chainsaw is the ultimate match, she's got to win heading towards Chainsaw. But Keta Rush she's always on the losing end of the stick. Here, I mean, the match was fun, and I thought she did a great job. But she always drops the fall. Almost always. I want to be able to get behind Keta Rush. I want to be able to root for her. I want to be able to see that Bully Buster story played out on screen. I want to see her be able to cut a promo and tell people, I'm not going to, you don't give up and I won't either. Yes, this woman has hurt me. Yes, Chance, she choked me out on national television. I won the match, but she brutalized me. But you know what? I'm coming back again. And I will keep coming back. As long as you keep fighting, I'll fight with you. Done. I just wrote a promo for her right there. And come on, can you honestly tell me that if she gets on a microphone and she gives that kind of speech and she actually starts winning a few matches here and there, leading into her ultimate showdown, that you can't back her up? We will move on. We go to a vignette in the next segment, setting up a match that was already made. This is WoW continuing to control their narrative and rewrite their past. That somehow, some way, Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball are now officially a team, and we're supposed to care about them like they've been friends. I don't know when this occurred. In fact, before the tag team match that they did have, they fought each other. They fought each other right outside of the building. So I don't know where this friendship developed from. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but we never saw that. It was never explained. And it was never explained that they say, yeah, you know, we're a team now or whatever. They just happened to have a match together. And WoW has people pair up all the time. This is why I'm saying define it. We just left a tag team match that had Chantilly, Chella, and Keta Rush. They're not a tag team. But theoretically in the WoW universe, they are. And they should be best friends. Or, you know, and if they ever turned on each other, how could they do this? They're teammates. That's the kind of logic that's being spread here. It's like Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball. I can't believe they're going to face each other. Why wouldn't you believe it? They tagged up one time. And before that, they were beating the crap out of each other. Why would this be hard to believe? So anyhow, this is a vignette that's taking place outside. And we got the Heavy Metal Sisters, who allegedly are, you know, in the midst of this breakdown of communication and argument and whatnot. And Mesmer clearly is no good friend to them because she ain't spoke a word or said anything like, hey, guys, can y'all settle this or something? I mean, I know she got the clown makeup on, but she doesn't have to play the mute too. She can speak. She said something before. Is it that unimportant just to stand there and watch them yell? And I mean, you know, that's what they're trying to make it out to be. But is it that important just to watch them break down that she has to follow behind and not say a word and just fall in the line? Hey, guys, just do what you're doing. I'm here. She's already been pulled from being a wrestler because she didn't wrestle at all. For the 3 years that they tried to pass her off as a wrestler, that never took. And I'm sorry. I don't mean to make that sound like I'm mad at her or something, but it just never went anywhere. It was just a pointless act. That's all I'm getting at. Is those things that get me with WoW. Like they could do some good stuff and then they'll turn around and something like this will occur. So we're seeing the Heavy Metal Sisters allegedly argue on the outside, and for whatever reason, all four of them just happen to be walking in the same empty parking lot at the same time. Like there's nobody else out here. It's just us five. And then Reina Del Rey speaks up for whatever reason. I don't know why this would be a thing. Like, we're going to all settle this. You, and me, all four of us in a match. We're going to settle it like in the streets, and, whoever wins, and that's that. So she just made that decision for them. But again, I was like, why would you even agree to that? What do I have to... And, and I'm asking this seriously, in a kayfabe universe, what would you have to gain by accepting this match? The Heavy Metal Sisters theoretically are already at each other's throats. Theoretically. I don't see them at each other's throats, but they're arguing, and the narrative that they're trying to paint is that there's friction. So why am I going to exacerbate that for nothing? It's not a championship on the line. Shouldn't be any money on the line. Not when she's, Reina Del Rey isn't a matchmaker. This is a match that probably would have taken place regardless of whether they were going to be there or not. They're not. What I'm saying is they weren't going to gain anything extra. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, hey, I'm going to put $5,000 on the line, sitting at that table, waiting for whoever wins this, and that's that. Or the crown of the queen of the streets or whatever. I mean, I don't know why this is happening, because you could just have Wrecking Ball and Reina Del Rey settle their problems on their own. Look, if we got an issue, we can fight between the two of us. Same thing with the Heavy Metal Sisters. As a matter of fact, they're friends. They ain't even got to fight in the ring. They could be at home. I know that wouldn't make sense in a wrestling show. I'm just saying. But, I mean, the same rules apply. They could fight in the ring. It didn't have to be in a four corners match. Why are we combining our issues is what I am getting at. For what reason do we have to combine this beyond the fact that we had a tag team match a while ago? There was no real reason for this. But it's happening anyway, so it is a four corners, no submission, no DQ, no rules. Now that was said in the vignette by Reina Del Rey, and again, she ain't the matchmaker. There's no consistency. Jesse Jones comes out, and that seemed like Jesse Jones the only one that Dave McClain give crap to. But Jesse Jones come out there and say, hey, I'm wrestling, and he immediately shut down. No, you're not. You got a bad leg. I'm changing the match right now. It's no longer a tag match. It's a single match. Jesse, sit on the side. He stopped that cold. Here, perfectly fine. Hey, we're going to have a four corners match. No rules, no DQ, no nothing. And, yep, okay, good. Just do it. So when I think about that, I say, it can't be concerned about health. If you was concerned about health, why would you sign a four corners, no DQ, no rules match? Jesse Jones just don't get no love off of Dave McClain. That's all that is. And again, no consistency in who can make what and why. It should, in theory, it should be David McClain. He's the guy and he's the matchmaker. And honestly, I know I say that he shouldn't be in the commentating booth, but he should be the on-screen matchmaker. He should be. Everybody knows he's the guy behind it. It's not a secret. So he should be the on-screen matchmaker. He should be the guy that's in the office saying, hey, you're going to have a match, or no, I'm not going to allow that because of this X, Y, and Z or whatever. He doesn't need to be the commentator. Take the role as the matchmaker, as the GM. But this match, getting back to the match, is almost like a glorified tag team match for the most part. They start off with the Heavy Metal Sisters both attacking Wrecking Ball and Reina Del Rey. Now, the team of Wrecking Ball and Reina Del Rey is WOW's incarnation of what Heidi Howitzer and Max the Impaler are on the independent circuit, the Wasteland. Reina Del Rey playing the part of Max the Impaler. So you got them, and this is basically supposed to be like the Road Warriors and the Powers of Pain, or something like that. The toughest and the roughest that this promotion has to offer, and we're gonna let them all go and fight each other to the bitter end. Except they didn't fight each other to the bitter end, at least not at the beginning. Like I said, it was a glorified tag team match. They just took turns beating on the same two people. They being Wrecking Ball and Reina Del Rey. They didn't really, go against each other all that much initially. And neither did the Heavy Metal Sisters. The match eventually breaks down, and we got, the separation of talents of the roster. We got Fury and Wrecking Ball in the ring, and on the outside, Reina Del Rey and Razor. Mesmera is nowhere to be found in this. I thought I remembered her being there, but actually my note says she wasn't. Or at least not at this portion. So they continuously badger each other back and forth. Now, the spot that we are getting to is the breakdown of teams. The first thing that they did that I guess showed some sort of miscommunication is that Razor mistakenly saved her tag team partner Fury. Backing away from her opponent, she tripped over the pin that was happening with Wrecking Ball and Fury behind her. So that was kind of the first subtle thing that they were doing. And it still stayed basically a tag team match. It was like a no rules tag team match. They just all stayed in the ring, just fighting with each other. But it wasn't it wasn't a lot of I'll beat on anybody that walks in front of me. It wasn't a lot of that. It wasn't that every person for herself mentality through the most part of this. So I go back to saying I don't understand the point of the match. The match was fine. I just don't understand the point of it. At one point in the match, you have all three, well, I shouldn't say all. You have 3 of the 4 competitors down because Razor was on the outside and the 3 in the ring essentially knocked themselves silly. Wrecking Ball, Fury, and Del Rey. Razor comes in and leaps across all 3 because conveniently all 3 bodies are laying shoulder to shoulder. She tries to get the pin. And nope, all 3 kick her off, which is to be expected. The match moves on. Everybody migrates to the outside somehow. They all just decide to do it. Like once the kickoff happened, everybody just decided to roll outside the ring. I don't know why. I guess great minds think alike. I suppose. I don't know. Del Rey pushes Razor back in the ring, and on the opposite side, Wrecking Ball pushes Razor back in the ring, or Fury, whichever one, I forgot. And just because they happen to be in the ring at the same time, it's like, oh, no, we're not going to fight each other. And then they just suddenly start fighting each other. Yeah, you have to see that. It's like they were trying to trick the other one. And so they have this little exchange between the two. Fury gets the better of the exchange and drops Razor on her head. But before she does it, she looks at us like, oh my gosh, I just knocked out my best friend. And it played well because this was a good edit job. It played well because they had the camera on Fury's face. You could see the sell of, I'm sorry that I did that. I shouldn't have done it. And then out of nowhere, Wrecking Ball blast her with a clothesline. But because it was on that shot, it would catch you off guard. So, I thought that was a well-done portion. Razor tossed Wrecking Ball back out, and then they have not another fury between the two, but Razor knocks her out with a short arm clothesline. She too has a moment where she's like, should I? And then she's like, oh, well. And so she goes for it. She looking to get the win. Wrecking Ball and Del Rey roll into the ring and they stop it. They all go back out to the floor again. Fury gets a good suplex on Wrecking Ball on the outside, shocking the fans in the front row. Now, there no chairs or tables or none of that stuff. I guess they didn't want the plunder. On the outside, Razor and Fury then have the barrage of elbows and fists and whatever. And then it was like they just beat all the hate out of each other. They just suddenly start laughing and like, that was good. And then they hug each other and it's done. And the first thing I thought was like, okay, seriously? This thing that you have been trying to get over, that barely got over to begin with. The idea that they're in some sort of like, I hate you, or that in some sort of disagreement. The idea that was taking place. And now, because they had this beaten up exchange between the two, we're done. Friends again. It's all good. Water under the bridge. Like I said, that probably would have meant more to me if they actually had more time on screen illustrating the fact that they were mad at each other. But other than a few comments by the commentators and maybe some verbal exchange between the two of them, I defy anybody to find something that showed them as being in some sort of argument. I mean, the arguments weren't even volatile. I've had more volatile arguments, shouting matches with friends than they had. How could that not have been shot? This promotion loves doing stuff backstage. They love it. They want to just be a regular TV show rather than a wrestling show. They love doing stuff backstage. Why would that not be one of the things that you shoot? If you're trying to tell this story. Them backstage in a full-on shouting match. They didn't have to go and shove it and whatnot. You do little things to show that they're just sick of each other, tired of hanging out with you. And the match looked disinterested in them getting beaten up. I mean, it could just be subtle stuff. But they had little to no build to this. This one match devalued what was a good episode. Because when you look at the logic of it, it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. Or at least the payoff isn't there. The match is fine, but the payoff for whatever the heavy metal and why is this being paid off in this Four Corners match? Shouldn't the match have just been two of them? I mean, I guess that's the opinion of the booker. I shouldn't say that it should have been. I should rephrase that and say could have been. But at the end of the day, this did not illustrate whatever issues. We didn't see why it started. At what point did they just begin to wear thin on each other's nerves? We didn't really see a build in them not getting along. They pretty much hung out with each other right up into this show. We saw, allegedly the vignette that was shown that booked the match had taken place prior to. But we're going to count it for now because it's on this episode. So right up until this show, you are seeing the Heavy Metal Sisters. Yeah, they're having words, but they're not angry. They're not. It's none of that. It's just two friends having a debate, and maybe they raised their voice a little bit, but that's all that was. It's just two friends having a debate, two sisters having a debate. There was nothing in this that would make me believe that they had some level of friction, that they needed to settle it violently or through fisticuffs or whatever. There was nothing in that made me. So what? They got into a brief argument about who they thought was going to be the better singles champion. So what? I would get into that same argument with somebody over a video game. Yeah, I can play this better than you. People do that. Why would that make me turn around and then punch my friend in the face because I think I'm better at Street Fighter than him? Why would these two get all bent out of shape because the other one thinks that I think I'm a better champion than you. These things happen in life. If they wanted to get this to where we as the viewer believed that the Heavy Metal Sisters had legit heat with each other, or were getting close to legit heat, that's the least you could have done. The least they could have done was have a shouting match. Go into this room. We're going to put the camera on you, and I need you to yell at each other at the top of your goddamn lungs about who lost the match. Easy. And speaking of who lost the match, getting back into the ring, Reina Del Rey, I'm sorry I got sidetracked. Reina Del Rey takes Razor in the ring with her, gets her in her suspended neck breaker, plops her on her head, 1, 2, 3, and we are done. Reina Del Rey stands tall as the winner of the match. And what was this for? I come back to that. What was this for? Fine match, but what was it for? What were the issues that Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball even had to begin with that they felt like they needed to be in the match? And would this have concluded that for her? I mean, it's not like she beat up on Wrecking Ball throughout this match. This almost served no purpose. This would have been better if they had no storyline going into it whatsoever. The storyline hurt this match. Just having them in the ring and say, hey, all right, we're going to have 4 corners match and it's just random. You know, that probably would have been better than had it, because there is no payoff here. There's no payoff for the Heavy Metal Sisters other than some random 3-second hug and a smile that they did on the outside, which, again, what is that supposed to mean? I don't know. Are they done? Were they just being crazy? Who knows? Because it is not explained. Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball barely had interaction with each other in this match. Most of this match consisted of being a glorified tag match with an interaction between partners peppered in between here and there. That was about it. It didn't do anything. Didn't forward anything, didn't solve anything, didn't blow anything off. This was just the Heavy Metal Sisters spinning their wheels. They needed something to do on TV, and this is just them spinning their wheels. Reina Del Rey spinning her wheels. She was in the championship mix as the main event person. I don't know why she just suddenly left, because the Beast got injured. That shouldn't have stopped her quest to be the champion, but she did. So spinning her wheels. Wrecking Ball, she didn't have an angle at all. Just here, just because she was randomly placed in a match as a tag partner to somebody that she fought previously. So therefore, they must be friends, and we should care that they're now arguing. Again, spinning their wheels. Nothing here. Nothing. So this would have been an overall good show had not been for that main event. The main event, again, because of the angle / storyline leading into it, it took it down for me. It took it down for me because I got nothing from it. I watched wrestling to see what the payoff is going to be and where the angles are going, and if it is going to have some sort of connective tissue that makes sense. And, of course, the quality, whether a good match. Who doesn't enjoy a good match? That's why we watch wrestling. They had a good match. The angle there just took away from it. It was another case of the anticlimactic climax. Same thing I said with Kandi Krush. There was little to no payoff there, and there's little to no payoff here. Side notes, I was asked about a couple of things with WoW recently that I had to check back into notes from other interviews to kind of decipher and find. One, somebody asked me about what kind of money do they make? Now, I said then, and I'm just going to repeat to the listening audience, I don't know. I do not know what kind of money they make overall. In the interview with April Littlejohn, who some of you would know as Riot if you were longtime WoW fans, or if you saw it at the time, she was probably the most in-depth interview I had with anybody that had worked with WoW at any given point. I'm sure that some of the finances and how they operate and everything has changed, because she was in WoW in 2000 and it's now 2023 as I'm recording this. So I have to expect that some of the things that she talked about have been modified since then. But one thing I think that is still the same as it relates to the page, she told me on that interview that no one there that was on that roster did not have a secondary income of some sort. Everyone there had to work someplace else because WoW was not placing them financially in a position where they can do WoW and that's it. Even though, even now when you have people like, hey, I'm only going to work for WoW. That I've heard 2 or 3 times from a couple of people there, but even then they still had some sort of secondary gig. And so I looked into it, and what I saw or found as far as payment is concerned, that it pays anywhere between $300 to $600 per event, which isn't bad money, and I'm pretty sure they fork out the money for the plane tickets and the hotels and stuff. So I would imagine you're getting that, you're getting food, you're getting pay, food, lodge, and travel. So I mean, that's a pretty nice deal. The thing that keeps them from getting is the thing that keeps them from having their roster work for them and them only. I mean, and I don't mean just as a wrestling pro. I mean like real world work. Real world work. I'm going to try to get that out and say it right. Is that they don't do it enough. Yeah, they get paid that per event, but the events only come around every 3 months or so. So even if they did like 3 days in a row and they paid them for each day, and I guess you could take the high end of that. You could say, what's that, about $1,800 that you could get paid on the top end. That would really help your month if you got another, job that gives you full-time money, but it's not enough for you to quit. So, that if that answers somebody's, I know I answered him when I was talking to him, but for those that might have thought the same thing, I hope that answers it. That's the reason I shared it, because I was like, somebody out there is probably asking the same question. Like, I wonder how much they get paid. Because, and this is a different guy than the dudes that I work with. And the one that I work with, he just assumed that they, had a lower pay scale than WWE. I was like, well, yeah, that's an easy assumption to make because it's WWE. They're the highest paying entity in the wrestling sphere. I mean, more or less. But he also didn't know that they were as in the pay bracket that they are. But anyways, the rest of that conversation led towards talking about what they do in ratings. Now, this is me talking to a friend of mine who is in television. So, keep that in mind. That's the entire reason that this came up. So, what I was leaning towards when I started talking about it, I say it's a difficult puzzle to kind of decipher, is that there's no way around the concept that WoW's ratings are not excessively high. The puzzle piece here is, does it have to be? That's the question. WoW doesn't seem to do a lot to try to draw in more viewers. In fact, I would say, given the rating that I read, and I'll give that in a second, it seems that they basically have the WoW audience already watching it. The people that are going to watch WoW are watching WoW currently. That's what it seems like. But WoW hasn't reached a new audience and created growth off of it. To give this a comparative note, because I know, not everybody out there knows rating numbers and stuff. I barely know it. I had to write it down so I could be able to translate this out. But just to give you an idea of what syndication numbers can look like and what they do. As of this month, May 2023, the top syndicated shows are Jeopardy at 5.3, Wheel of Fortune at 4.9, Family Feud at 4.6. Those are the top syndicated shows in their genre. They're usually separated by genre. Daytime TV, the top shows were Live with Kelly and Ryan, which I know Kelly and Ryan is pretty much over now. And we're talking about that's syndicated. That was 1.6. Dr. Phil, 1.3. Drew, 0.4. Now, it's important to note that 0.4 is a high number. That's still like 1 million people, or I believe over 1 million people. So, don't look at the point decimal as the low. So now we're going over to a comparative note with wrestling. The average rating that is listed for WoW, or at least the ratings that I have, these are the ones for episode 29 and 30. The rating was 0.05 for episode 29. And again, this is not 0.5, this is 0.05. What that equates to is about 287,000 viewers on the average. The following week had an uptick, but it was basically the same thing. Well, I should say it ticked down. It was 0.04 for the following week, which is, again, is hovering around that 250,000 mark. And the first thing that, my friend was saying is like, that number can be achieved in a single city, not nationwide. The number sounds high, and until you spread it out over the country. When you look at it like that, it dwindles quite a bit. You take 250,000 and spread that out over, let's just say 40 states. Well, I should look at it. Yeah, let's say 48. We'll just or to include the mainland. This is what I was getting. I was tripping over my words there, but so I'm gonna test this theory. We're gonna say 250,000 people. All right. In fact, I'll put the number that they have: 287. 287,000 viewers. And we'll divide that by 48. That's basically like 5,000 people per city. Again, this comes down to what is good for them. On the surface of that number comes off low. But the comparative information to that is that Impact Wrestling is basically the same number. Their rating, in fact, one of their ratings is far lower than that. And I love Impact Wrestling. Their rating was at the same time was 0.02. That's less than $250,000. It's like 100,000. Or a little over 100,000. The only saving grace that Impact Wrestling has that WOW does not is that WOW is available in more homes because of the syndication. You can get WOW whether you pay for a TV or not. All you need is a digital antenna. It is available as long as you have a television. That is the difference. Impact Wrestling, you have to have cable for that. You have to have at least Access TV. You gotta have it if you're gonna watch it through those means and appease those rating numbers. And so, that dwindles their access to ratings numbers down immediately because of the accessibility of the product. WOW's product on paper, I'd have to see, but when you're talking syndication, and I've seen the stations that they are across the country and what those stations by and large have the potential viewership of, opposed to Access TV, which is a singular nationwide broadcast through cable. But you have to not only have cable, but you got to have that cable package. And your cable provider has to provide that network. So there's a couple of things that may work against you because Access TV isn't necessarily widely accessible. So it's a case of, what is it for them? And when we were sitting at the table and we were having this conversation and he said that, and I thought about, man, you're right. That number across the people in the country doesn't come out high. But my following question is, does it have to come out high? It's only going to make a difference if their ratings continue to drop and then the advertisers look at that and say, I don't want my stuff on this anymore, or whatever the case. If the ratings tank and then they have to face the wrath of Paramount and Viacom, then yeah. But at this stage, I don't know if that would happen. Would they be canceled because of this? I mean, they've not had the best of luck as far as television is concerned since 2013 to present. But they are here now, and Viacom and Paramount seem very supportive of them, and they have done everything that they can to push this product. Will it be enough, and is this rating what they require? It is a difficult puzzle. My mind would tell me that, again, on the surface of it, yes, it is a low rating and it probably would hurt them. That is what I feel like on the surface of that. Outside of that, are they making people look at this like, hey, well, we're on at 11 here and 3 a.m. there and this, that. Are advertisers or Viacom, Paramount taking that into account that this is a syndicated show that is all over the place? And I know that for a fact. I've seen it. I've been into the room where they've aired these things simultaneously, and I saw it airing at 3 a.m. in Pittsburgh, but 11 o'clock in Atlanta, at 1 in Philadelphia, or it's just, you have all of that. So in any case, I will leave on the note of I will assume that WOW, regardless of the rating that they've gotten, is getting the audience that they are looking to get, which is probably why that they don't do anything to extend that audience or try to grow it. Maybe they're just fine with it. Like these are our fans, so that's the ones we stick with. And we don't need any new ones. I guess, I don't know. And that the rating for them might not be the end all be all as to their existence. Time will tell. In any case, folks, that will do it. It will bring the end to another show, another review. And we will get ourselves prepared and set for next week's episode. And hopefully it'll have some good stuff in it. You know, WoW has had its improvements, and I am not shy about saying that. You've heard me carry on about the production. I think the production has changed largely. There are some more people getting a little bit more shine on, but they still got some things that I feel they have to do to improve overall. So that said, I think I said that already. But anyway, that said, we're going to close this up and get ready to check it out for the following week. Please come back if you haven't. If you're new to this, please subscribe also. And if you listen to this in audio format, please follow the show on the format of your choice. And now we can do the sign off. This is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.